Welcome to InfoStream, your daily current. Unsure what to listen to? Turn to us for today's headlines. Stay informed. Trump warns of expanded airstrikes, concerns rise over Nigeria's security. Iran protests and West Bank violence, ongoing unrest, and escalating tensions. IC shooting in Minneapolis sparks controversy, investigation launched into the incident. Russian strikes intensify. Prisoner exchanges continue, tensions remain high in the region. Gaza conflict and settler violence, a summary: conflict and violence persist. XAI controversy and Ofcom intervention amidst deepfake concerns, regulatory action addresses deepfake risks. U.S. economy slows, housing affordability crisis deepens amidst policy shifts, economic challenges continue. Storm Goretti impacts across the UK, severe weather disruptions, extreme weather causes widespread disruption. Cebu landfill collapse, a fatal disaster, and ongoing rescue operations underway after the collapse. NASA astronauts to return early due to medical issue in space. Astronauts returning due to a medical concern. Australia fires, extreme bushfires threaten communities, wildfires pose a significant danger. U.S. faces challenges in maintaining measles elimination status, progress towards elimination is being hampered. Lords extend debate on assisted dying bill amidst delays. The bill's passage is facing significant delays. The Digesti Tripura students killing exposes persistent racism in India. Racism remains a serious issue in India. National investment across key sectors. A summary: investment is focused on several sectors. Trump warns of expanded airstrikes amidst Nigeria security concerns. Recent developments highlight escalating tensions and security challenges within Nigeria, prompting a strong response from former U.S. President Donald Trump. The situation centers on persistent violence perpetrated by jihadist groups operating primarily in the country's northeast, alongside broader security concerns regarding the protection of Christian communities. This has led to a direct warning from Trump regarding potential escalation of U.S. military intervention. The core issue involves ongoing attacks by groups like Boko Haram and affiliates linked to the Islamic State (IS) group, concentrated in Borno State. These groups have been responsible for significant casualties and instability. Simultaneously, accusations have surfaced alleging a systematic targeting of Christians, fueling anxieties and prompting calls for increased protection. Responding to these developments, Trump issued a stark warning, stating that further attacks on Christian communities would trigger expanded U.S. airstrikes against Nigeria. He emphasized the potential for repeated interventions if the situation persisted. The Nigerian government has strongly refuted Trump's claims, asserting that attacks target both Muslim and non-Muslim populations. They maintain that the strikes against jihadist camps, particularly in Sokoto State, are focused on dismantling militant operations. Regardless of the religious affiliation of the targeted groups, the U.S. conducted targeted airstrikes against two camps associated with the Lakurawa Group, a militant organization operating near the Nigerian-Niger border. The Nigerian government confirmed the operation as a joint effort with the U.S. and stated that it was not linked to the Christmas holiday or any specific religious group. Despite these clarifications, Trump's pronouncements have amplified existing anxieties and raised questions about the future of U.S. involvement in Nigeria's security landscape. The Nigerian government continues to address the situation with a focus on comprehensive counterterrorism strategies. The U.S. operation involved a joint effort with the Nigerian armed forces and aimed to disrupt militant activities. The situation remains fluid, with ongoing security challenges and diplomatic efforts to stabilize the region. Iran protests and West Bank violence, a summary: recent news reports detail escalating unrest within Iran, fueled by economic frustration and political discontent, alongside violent incidents in the West Bank. Protests in Iran, centered around demands for regime change and the restoration of the monarchy, have spread across numerous cities and towns, including Tehran, Mashhad, and Isfahan. These demonstrations, sparked by economic hardship and the collapse of the Iranian currency, are characterized by a growing boldness among participants, with calls for the overthrow of the clerical establishment and the return of Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the late Shah. The scale of the protests is significant, with over 100 cities and towns involved, and the movement is bolstered by calls for a transition to a monarchy. The internet has been severely restricted, hindering independent reporting, but social media provides evidence of the widespread unrest. The protests represent the largest since 2009 and are characterized by chants advocating for the Shah's return and expressions of despair regarding the current political situation. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, a violent incident involving Israeli settlers resulted in the assault of an elderly deaf Palestinian man. Surveillance footage captured the attack, showing settlers beating the man with clubs and setting vehicles ablaze. This event highlights the ongoing tensions and violence in the region. Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the late Shah, has emerged as a central figure in the Iranian opposition, leveraging social media and public appeals to mobilize support for a potential transition to a monarchy. Despite his efforts, analysts note his divisive nature and lack of experience as potential challenges to his leadership. The combined reports paint a picture of significant instability within Iran, driven by economic grievances and political opposition, alongside continued violence and unrest in the West Bank. Both situations underscore complex geopolitical dynamics and the ongoing struggle for stability in the region. The protests in Iran are the fifth anti-regime protests in nearly a decade, and the violence in the West Bank continues to fuel tensions. IC shooting in Minneapolis sparks controversy and investigation. A series of news articles detail the escalating fallout surrounding the fatal shooting of Renee Good by an Immigration and Customs Enforcement (IC) agent in Minneapolis, Minnesota, highlighting concerns about investigation integrity and broader implications. The incident, initially presented by DHS as a confrontation involving a violent rioter attempting to harm law enforcement, is now facing scrutiny due to perceived interference from the federal government and a lack of immediate access for state officials to conduct a thorough investigation. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz expressed deep skepticism regarding the possibility of a fair investigation, stating that the FBI had blocked state officials from participating in the inquiry. Walz questioned the motives behind this obstruction, suggesting a deliberate attempt to influence the outcome. This stance underscores broader anxieties about potential federal overreach and a lack of transparency in a sensitive situation. The Minneapolis shooting has triggered widespread condemnation and a call for accountability. Local officials, including Mayor Jacob Frey, publicly criticized the ICE agent's actions and demanded a transparent and independent investigation. Frey's forceful statement, "Get the FAB out of my city," further inflamed tensions. The Timberwolves basketball team held a moment of silence in memory of Good, recognizing the tragic event within their community. The team's coach, Chris Finch, offered condolences to those affected by the shooting. The DHS initially characterized Good as a violent rioter attempting to harm law enforcement. However, video evidence obtained by CNN reveals a different narrative, showing Good's car reversing while an agent approached her vehicle. This discrepancy has fueled further questions about the accuracy of the initial DHS account. The FBI's involvement in restricting state access to the investigation has intensified concerns about potential political interference. The situation is evolving rapidly, with ongoing investigations and legal challenges expected. The shooting has become a focal point for debates surrounding immigration enforcement policies, federal-state relations, and the pursuit of justice in a complex and politically charged environment. The immediate aftermath has been marked by distrust, demands for transparency, and a heightened awareness of the potential consequences of law enforcement actions. Russian strikes intensify. Prisoner exchanges continue amidst escalating tensions. Recent news reports detail a significant escalation of the conflict in Ukraine, coupled with ongoing prisoner exchanges highlighting the complex diplomatic landscape. Russian forces have intensified their attacks, utilizing advanced weaponry like the Oreshnik ballistic missile, targeting infrastructure and civilian areas, particularly in western Ukraine near the NATO border. These strikes, including the use of the Oreshnik, which was initially underdeveloped, aim to inflict damage and disrupt Ukrainian operations. The attacks have resulted in casualties, including a French researcher, Laurent Vinatier, and a Syrian crew member aboard a commercial vessel. Simultaneously, Russian forces have launched a barrage of drones, missiles, and continued their assaults on energy facilities, impacting hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians. The Kremlin's actions are framed as a response to Western support for Ukraine and a broader concern about the sustainability of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Amidst this heightened military activity, several prisoner exchanges have taken place. Laurent Vinatier, a French researcher detained for failing to register as a foreign agent, was released in a deal involving the return of Russian basketball player Daniil Kasakin, who was imprisoned in France on hacking charges. This exchange, along with previous swaps involving U.S. citizens, underscores Russia's willingness to leverage detained nationals as bargaining chips. The August 2024 mass prisoner exchange, involving over 24 individuals, represents the largest such swap since the Cold War. The use of the Oreshnik missile, first deployed in November 2024, signifies Russia's continued development and deployment of sophisticated weaponry. The attacks on civilian vessels and energy infrastructure demonstrate a deliberate strategy to degrade Ukraine's capabilities and exacerbate the humanitarian situation. The ongoing diplomatic maneuvering, including the release of Western nationals, reflects the multifaceted nature of the conflict and the various actors involved. Concerns are being raised regarding the potential impact of Russia's actions on the stability of NATO, particularly concerning the potential for Greenland to become a focal point of geopolitical tension. The continued exchanges highlight the critical role of diplomacy in managing this complex and volatile situation. Gaza conflict and settler violence, a summary and the recent events in Gaza and the West Bank paint a picture of escalating violence and stalled peace efforts. In Gaza, the Civil Defense Agency reports that 8 individuals, including 4 children, have been killed in Israeli airstrikes over the past 24 hours, escalating the ongoing conflict. The strikes targeted areas including Jabalia, Deir al-Balah, and Khan Yunis, with a drone attack resulting in the death of a man near Khan Yunis, and a tent attack claiming 4 lives, including children. These attacks occur amidst a fragile ceasefire brokered by the United States, which has seen 425 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces since October 10th, according to Gaza's health ministry. The ceasefire's effectiveness is continually challenged by alleged violations from both sides. Simultaneously, a horrific incident unfolded in the West Bank, where an elderly, deaf Palestinian man was brutally attacked by a group of Israeli settlers. Surveillance footage reveals a coordinated assault involving physical attacks with clubs and the deliberate setting of vehicles ablaze. This act of violence underscores the persistent tensions and lack of security in the occupied territories. The Gaza conflict is further complicated by the stalled U.S.-brokered peace plan, initially intended to facilitate the release of hostages held by Hamas in exchange for Palestinian detainees. While some hostages have been returned, one remains unaccounted for. Phase 2 of the plan, requiring Hamas disarmament and the establishment of a technocratic government, is being resisted. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is accused of deliberately delaying the process. Meanwhile, Palestinian officials insist that disarmament should occur alongside progress towards an independent Palestinian state. The settler violence in the West Bank highlights the urgent need for international intervention and a resolution to the underlying issues fueling the conflict, emphasizing the precarious situation for civilians on both sides. XAI controversy and Ofcom intervention amidst deepfake concerns. Recent developments highlight significant regulatory scrutiny and public outcry surrounding Elon Musk's AI image editing tool, Grok, integrated within the X social media platform. Initial concerns centered on Grok's ability to digitally remove clothing from images of individuals, leading to accusations of objectification and abuse, particularly targeting women. Following substantial backlash, X swiftly implemented a paid subscription model, limiting image editing functionality to users paying a monthly fee. However, this action was widely criticized as inadequate, with many arguing it merely monetized abuse. The UK government, through Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, has emphatically demanded action from Ofcom, the UK's communications regulator. Ofcom has initiated an investigation into X practices, leveraging its powers under the Online Safety Act, including the potential for a ban on X's access to technology and funding. This intervention reflects escalating concerns about unlawful AI-generated deepfakes and the broader implications for online safety, particularly regarding risks to children. Ofcom's proactive stance underscores the regulator's commitment to enforcing the Online Safety Act and addressing systemic harms. Meanwhile, OpenAI has launched ChatGPT Health in the United States, a feature designed to analyze users' medical records and data from health-related apps like MyFitnessPal to provide personalized health advice. OpenAI emphasizes that the feature is intended to support, not replace, medical care, and that conversations will be stored separately from other chats. However, this development has also raised privacy concerns, prompting calls for airtight safeguards to protect sensitive health information, especially as OpenAI explores potential advertising revenue streams. The situation at X remains complex, with ongoing investigations and a concerted effort by regulatory bodies to mitigate risk associated with AI-generated content and ensure user safety. The events represent a potential watershed moment in the regulation of AI and its application within social media platforms, demanding greater accountability and proactive measures to prevent misuse and protect vulnerable individuals. The potential introduction of ChatGPT Health in the UK is currently uncertain. U.S. economy slows, housing affordability crisis deepens amidst policy shifts. The U.S. economy exhibited a significant slowdown, with only 50,000 jobs added last month, alongside a declining unemployment rate, signaling a challenging economic environment. This weakness is exacerbating the existing housing affordability crisis, prompting the Trump administration to implement measures aimed at stabilizing the market. These actions include a plan to ban large institutional investors from acquiring additional single-family homes, and a directive to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae to purchase $200 billion in mortgage bonds. Several states, led by New York, have filed a lawsuit challenging the Trump administration's freeze on social assistance and child care funding, initially triggered by a federal probe into alleged fraud in Minnesota. The administration's move, affecting our $10 billion in funding, has drawn criticism and accusations of punishing states for their political leadership. The states argue the freeze is unconstitutional and violates federal aid regulations. Meanwhile, Democratic states are actively countering the Trump administration's policies, most notably through a legislative battle to redraw California's congressional map, aiming to secure 5 additional House seats. Governor Gavin Newsom framed his State of the State address as a beacon of democracy and innovation, contrasting it with what he termed the carnival of chaos in Washington. The housing market remains severely constrained, with rising costs fueled by limited inventory and high mortgage rates. The Trump administration's intervention seeks to address this by curbing institutional investment in single-family homes, a strategy echoed by Newsom's plan. California's efforts to combat the crisis include exploring measures against large investors. The economy's sluggishness is highlighted by the limited job growth and the ongoing housing affordability challenges. The administration's actions, while intended to alleviate the pressure, are met with legal challenges and political opposition. Newsom's speech underscored California's commitment to resisting what he perceives as the administration's disruptive policies. The lawsuit against the administration reflects a broader trend of legal challenges to federal funding decisions. The dispute over social assistance and child care funding adds to the complex landscape of policy interventions aimed at addressing economic and social issues. The competition between the state and federal governments underscores the significant impact of these decisions on communities across the nation. California's legislative efforts to secure additional House seats demonstrate a strategic response to the shifting political landscape. The ongoing legal battles and policy shifts highlight the complexities of navigating economic and social challenges within the context of a divided government. Storm Goretti impacts across the UK. Severe weather disruptions. Severe weather conditions caused by Storm Goretti are causing widespread disruption across the United Kingdom, primarily through heavy snow and resulting travel and educational impacts. The primary concern revolves around hazardous road conditions and school closures, particularly in Midlands, Shropshire, and surrounding areas. Numerous schools, including secondary schools in Shropshire and primary schools in areas like Shropshire, have announced closures due to the dangerous conditions. This extends to special education needs and disabilities, the C&D school transport services, further compounding the disruption. Road closures are prevalent, most notably on the A49 south of Shrewsbury and across Shropshire, where icy conditions have made travel perilous. UK power networks are actively addressing power outages, with approximately 114 homes in Suffolk affected, alongside 70 homes and businesses in areas like Ipswich. Engineers are working to restore electricity, anticipating full-service restoration by 0800 or 0700 in some cases. Transport networks are severely impacted. West Midlands Railway has implemented speed restrictions and potential service delays due to icy tracks, while Transport for Wales TfW has suspended the Craven Arms to Swansea service from 1500 on Friday. Road gridding operations are underway, with Shropshire Council deploying multiple gridding lorries and snow plows to combat the hazardous conditions. The Met Office has issued an amber weather warning for rain across much of the Midlands and Wales, alongside ongoing snow warnings. Efforts are focused on mitigating the impact on travel, ensuring the safety of residents, and restoring essential services. The situation remains dynamic, with ongoing monitoring and response efforts aimed at minimizing further disruption. Emergency services are coordinating closely to address any emerging incidents. The focus remains on ensuring public safety and restoring normalcy as quickly as possible. Cebu landfill collapse, fatal disaster, and ongoing rescue efforts. A catastrophic landfill collapse in Cebu City, Philippines, has resulted in 1 confirmed death and the disappearance of over 30 individuals, primarily landfill workers. Rescuers are working tirelessly against the clock to locate survivors amidst the unstable debris of the Binalu landfill. The collapse, occurring on Thursday, is attributed to potentially negligent waste management practices, with authorities suspecting operators engaged in unauthorized soil mining and haphazard garbage piling. Mayor Nestor Archival emphasized the complexity of the rescue operation, noting that conventional excavation methods are ineffective due to the landfill's unstable structure. He explained that pulling debris from the top could exacerbate the risk of further collapse, potentially endangering trapped individuals. Approximately 300 personnel, including government agencies and civilian groups, have been deployed utilizing excavators, ambulances, and fire trucks. 12 injured sanitation workers were successfully extracted from the wreckage and subsequently hospitalized. The incident highlights the dangerous conditions at the privately owned landfill, which is described as an open dump site rather than a sanitary landfill. Families anxiously await updates on their loved ones, with one resident, Belen Antigua, reporting her son's survival while she continues to search for other relatives. Another family has been gathering at the site since Friday morning, desperately seeking their children. A key concern is the possibility of further collapses, prompting a cautious and deliberate approach to the rescue efforts. The ongoing operation underscores the urgent need for improved waste management practices and stricter regulations at privately owned landfills within the Philippines. The situation remains fluid, with the primary focus on locating the missing and mitigating the risk of additional disasters. NASA astronauts to return early due to medical issue in space. Due to an undisclosed medical issue, NASA has made the unprecedented decision to prematurely return the Crew 11 team from the International Space Station. The mission, involving astronauts Zena Cardman, Mike Finke, Kimia Yui, and Oleg Tlaterna, was slated to conclude next month but will now depart within days. This marks the first early evacuation in the history of the continuously inhabited ISS. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman initiated the decision, citing the impending arrival of Crew 12, allowing for a streamlined transition. The crew's departure will leave only one NASA astronaut, Chris Williams, aboard the football field-sized station, who arrived in late November via a Russian Soyuz capsule. Williams is considered well prepared to manage ongoing tasks until the Crew 12 arrives. The medical concern prompted a postponement of a scheduled spacewalk. NASA's Chief Health and Medical Officer, Dr. James Polk, emphasized the agency's commitment to astronaut well-being, noting the robust medical equipment and communication systems available on the ISS, despite the challenges posed by the extreme space environment. He highlighted the complexities of providing medical care more than 200 miles above Earth, particularly regarding conditions like toothaches or ear pain. NASA's long-standing policy of withholding specific details about astronaut health issues reflects a commitment to scientific research and the gradual unveiling of insights gained from spaceflight's impact on the human body. Historical precedents include cases of space adaptation syndrome and jugular venous thrombosis, where the identities of affected astronauts have remained confidential. Recent incidents involving Crew 8 astronauts further demonstrate this pattern, with one member experiencing a medical issue and subsequently being hospitalized, though details remain undisclosed. Over the past 25 years of the space station's operation, NASA has successfully addressed a host of medical issues, leveraging available equipment and medications to provide treatment and diagnosis in orbit. The agency's approach underscores a cautious and research-oriented strategy for managing potential health challenges within the unique environment of space. Australia fires. Extreme bushfires threaten communities. A severe heatwave across Australia, particularly in Victoria and South Australia, is fueling catastrophic bushfires, prompting urgent warnings of property loss or worse. Record high temperatures, exceeding 42 degrees C in Melbourne and potentially reaching 45 degrees C in northwest Victoria, combined with strong winds, are creating extremely dangerous fire conditions. A total fire ban is in effect across Victoria, with most regions designated as facing catastrophic or extreme fire danger. The Longwood fire in central Victoria has already ravaged nearly 36,000 hectares, exhibiting a dynamic and rapidly spreading nature. At least 20 homes in Ruffey have been destroyed, with the town's main street resembling a bomb's gone off. Residents have lost their livelihoods, including shearing sheds and livestock, describing the situation as absolutely devastating. Tragically, 3 individuals, 2 adults and a child, remain unaccounted for in the Longwood area. Authorities attempted to warn the family to seek shelter, but were unable to locate them after the home was consumed by the fire. Despite the grim circumstances, no fatalities have been reported. In the Australian Capital Territory, a total fire ban was declared for the first time in 6 years, reflecting the heightened risk. Sydney is also experiencing elevated temperatures, expected to reach 42 degrees C on Saturday, before dropping to 26 degrees C by Sunday. Firefighters are battling relentlessly to contain the Longwood fire, while emergency services are urging residents to take precautions and adhere to fire safety guidelines. The situation remains fluid and unpredictable, demanding constant vigilance and ongoing efforts to protect communities and prevent further damage. The focus is on containment and evacuation efforts, acknowledging the potential for continued spread and the devastating impact on lives and property. U.S. faces challenges in maintaining measles elimination status. The United States is currently undertaking a comprehensive assessment to determine if it can retain its measles elimination status. a benchmark established since 2000, despite a significant surge in confirmed cases. The World Health Organization's criteria require 12 months or more of no locally transmitted measles strains to maintain elimination. The assessment is being conducted by the Pan American Health Organization (WHO), who will analyze 2,065 confirmed cases as across states including Texas, Utah, Arizona, and South Carolina. Scientists are grappling with the difficulty of definitively proving that ongoing outbreaks are unrelated to the initial 2025 Texas outbreak. Traditional methods involving interviewing infected individuals and comparing viral genotypes are proving insufficient due to incomplete information and the sheer scale of the recent cases. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, is utilizing a novel technique of analyzing the entire genetic code of virus samples, with preliminary data suggesting a lack of direct links between the outbreaks. A potential gap in epidemiological knowledge is emerging, with evidence suggesting that new cases in Texas ceased in July, followed by a 3-week period before the Utah-Arizona outbreak began. This suggests a possible independent origin for the latter. Furthermore, distrust within certain communities, leading to underreporting of cases, poses a significant challenge to tracking transmission accurately. The CDC's inability to definitively link the outbreaks underscores the possibility of ongoing domestic transmission, given the shared genetic characteristics of many U.S. cases and the lack of identified sources of infection. The assessment is complicated by the fact that many cases are not identified or reported, potentially leading to a misinterpretation of the data. PAO's final decision will be based on the totality of the evidence, and if they deem the data insufficient, the U.S. will lose its elimination status. The CDC Acting Director Jim O'Neill has stated there is no epidemiological evidence linking the outbreaks, but the shared genetic characteristics and unreported cases create considerable uncertainty. The assessment highlights the complexities of tracking vaccine-preventable diseases, particularly in environments with limited public health trust and potential gaps in surveillance data. Lords extend debate on assisted dying bill amidst delays. The House of Lords is facing significant challenges in debating the assisted dying bill, prompting calls for additional time to complete its parliamentary stages before the current session ends in early May. Despite 10 previously scheduled extra sessions, progress has been slow, with only a fraction of the anticipated 15 groups of amendments successfully debated. As of Friday, the Lords had addressed 17 groups and nearly 200 amendments, leaving over 800 remaining. Supporters of the bill, led by Lord Falconer, argue that the extensive number of proposed amendments, a record for a bill originating from a backbench MP, represents a deliberate tactic to obstruct its passage. However, opponents insist their concerns regarding the bill's safety and potential harm to vulnerable individuals are genuine. The debate has highlighted a fundamental disagreement regarding the bill's quality and the need for alterations. Conservative peer Lord Shinkwin argued that the sheer volume of amendments reflects a poorly drafted and unsafe bill, questioning whether additional time could genuinely improve it. Lord Falconer has advocated for extending the debate schedule, recognizing the potential damage to the House of Lords' reputation if a conclusion isn't reached. Baroness Butler-Sloss echoed this sentiment, stating that while she disagrees with the bill, it must be addressed. Concerns have been raised about a perceived stalling tactic, with a source indicating that supporters are overly focused on the process, rather than addressing identified problems. Lord Kennedy, the government's chief whip in the Lords, has pledged to hold urgent discussions early next week to explore a path forward. The situation underscores the difficulty in navigating a complex legislative process, particularly when faced with a substantial number of amendments and differing viewpoints on the bill's fundamental safety and suitability. The debate's continued extension is a key factor in determining whether the bill will ultimately become law. The Digest Tripura students' killing exposes persistent racism in India. The recent death of Angel Chakma, a 24-year-old student from Tripura, following a violent attack in Dehradun, Uttarakhand, has reignited concerns about systemic racism faced by individuals from India's northeastern states. The attack, perpetrated by a group of men who used racial slurs, resulted in Angel's death after 17 days in hospital, despite his brother Michael's recovery. Police have arrested 5 individuals, but deny the attack was racially motivated, a claim vehemently disputed by the Chakma family. This incident is part of a recurring pattern of violence against northeastern migrants in India. The 2014 death of Nito Tania in Delhi, following taunts about his appearance, served as a national flashpoint and sparked widespread debate. Subsequent incidents, including the 2016 assault on a student in Pune and an assault on a student in Bengaluru, highlighted the ongoing issue. These cases often go unreported, representing a significant underrepresentation of racial violence within national crime statistics. Many northeastern migrants experience daily discrimination, including difficulty securing housing due to prejudiced landlords, and are subjected to racial name-calling in workplaces and educational settings. Individuals like Ambika Fonglo and Mary Walang have recounted similar experiences, leading Walang to abandon plans for work in larger cities. The perceived physical characteristics, narrow eyes and flat noses, of northeastern individuals make them vulnerable to such prejudice. Activists emphasize that the issue is not isolated, with many northeastern residents routinely encountering racial taunts and discrimination. The question of how do we look Indian enough underscores the deep-seated prejudice. A monitoring committee established in 2018 continues to document these incidents, recognizing that dismissing them as isolated events obscures the systemic nature of the problem. Alana Golme stresses the importance of acknowledging the issue before addressing it effectively. The ongoing nature of this prejudice reflects a significant challenge to social inclusion and equality within India. National investment across key sectors. A significant wave of investment is underway across several key sectors, encompassing regional infrastructure, renewable energy, and regional economic development. National Gas is undertaking a substantial 5-year, $870 million regional investment. With a new headquarters established in Peterborough, this investment is anticipated to generate 250 new jobs and safeguard 300 existing positions, reinforcing the company's commitment to regional operations and bolstering the local economy. The project's strategic location in Peterborough underscores National Gas's dedication to supporting critical infrastructure projects, ensuring a safe and resilient energy network for the UK. Meanwhile, a planned 43,000-panel solar farm, the Barkham Solar Farm, has been temporarily paused due to a revised government timetable for grid hookups. Originally slated to begin construction in the spring, the project's timeline has been extended, with full connection now anticipated between 2031 and 2035. The Wokingham Borough Council made the decision to halt construction due to this uncertainty, prioritizing responsible financial management and avoiding a multi-million-pound contract with potentially delayed returns. The government's revised energy timetable reflects a broader strategic shift, acknowledging the complexities of integrating renewable energy sources into the national grid. Industry Minister Chris MacDonald emphasized the ongoing importance of gas infrastructure, particularly during peak demand periods, highlighting its comparative energy transport capacity compared to the electricity grid. Locally, the planned solar farm's postponement is viewed positively by Peterborough City Council, which sees the investment as a testament to the region's suitability for large-scale infrastructure projects. The Council anticipates future opportunities as the energy sector evolves. These developments collectively demonstrate a concerted effort to strengthen the UK's energy security and support economic growth through strategic investment and technological advancement. The overall picture paints a picture of proactive planning and adaptation within the face of evolving energy demands and governmental priorities.